Hello students, welcome to today's session of DNA. Today dated 24 December, we will see certain articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express. Before moving on to the articles, I want to quote a favorite quote of mine: conquer yourself rather than the world. As Sangam literature and other ancient literature such as the Upanishads said, the world is a battle where you win yourself first. So before winning the world or before going to UPSC as a battlefield, you should know your pros and cons so that you will be better equipped to focus the exam as a battlefield. So as certain Upanishads quote, that world consists of two things: the inner self, which requires peace, and the outer self, which is a battlefield. So in order to face the battlefield, you must first have the inner peace to solve that. So as per this quote states, you have to win yourself first or conquer yourself first before going to the world or your future ambitions, which might be a better quote for you to identify or use during the UPSC preparation phase. Moving on to the articles. Today we will be seeing certain articles related to environment, polity, and certain economic bodies and economic demographics. The first article is India is about to bring a anti-terror policy, which is in the formation phase now. So we will see about India's anti-terror framework and the related policies that we are having now. Next, we will see about the pending issue which is going on in news since a week or two, which talk about the classification of what constitutes ARAVALLI range and what does not constitute, and the 100-meter related issue regarding it. We will see about a new twist and turn to the already existing news. Third one is Health Minister of India stated maternal mortality dropped in India because institutional delivery raised to 89% in India, which is a phenomenal achievement by the government of India. Fourth, National Testing Agency is about to bring facial recognition as a identification parameter before entering exam halls in certain examinations. And fifth, ISRO'S heaviest ever launch today shows the test of its capability and the cost involvement. So we have a science and tech article, we have an economic body related article, we have a demographic related article, then we have environment and a social issue related article, along with a article which states about a bill that is about polity. Moving on to the first article. So this article states about India's first anti-terror policy to be out soon. So this article states about India is finalizing a first of its kind comprehensive anti-terror bill, along with consultation from multiple security agencies, finalized by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So this bill is about to prevent, respond, or take preemptive action against terror activities, which might be upcoming in the future. So this is the part in the news. Moving on to it. Unlike till now, what did we have? We had sector specific approaches. For example, there are multiple arenas of terrorism like cyber terrorism, like on-field terrorism, cross-border terrorism. So for all of it, we had respective agencies per se. But this newly approachable bill tries to bring a holistic framework to involve prevention so that the terror activities might not happen, intelligence coordination among several intelligence agencies in India, response mechanism which is distributed between several agencies in state and the center, and the capacity building of certain states which are not well equipped to face certain states like Mumbai have anti-terrorist squads which were well equipped after the 26/11 incidents, but most of the states are still not equipped to face terrorism as a threat. So capacity building of the state is also one of the objective of this holistic framework. So as we were talking about, we now told that this is India's first of its kind anti-terror policy framework. Does that mean India did not have any related initiative before? No, but we did not have a comprehensive approach, but we had certain policies like national policy and actual plan on left-wing extremism. So this plan combated terrorism associated extremism in certain areas. So it had provisions to oppose terrorism before. UAPA amendment. What is UAPA? It is an act that promotes prosecutive and Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. promotes prosecutive and preventive detention in India related to terror related activities. It enables the provision to give, it can enable an organization to be banned in the name of banned terrorist organizations. It can designate an individual as terrorist and seize the assets of the organization or the designated individual. So, this is the provisions related to UAPA. So, this was the primary or premier act in India concerning terror related activities in through prosecutive or preventive detention of individuals involved. So, we had UAPA amendments and UAPA Act governing terrorism related activities. Moving on to NIA. NIA is National Investigative Agency. It collects intelligence from several agencies and investigate terror related activities. This came and in this case was established post 26/11 incident and 2008. It is not an on-field combative or a field operation agency, but rather a investigative agency as the name states. So, these are the certain initiatives we had before the upcoming policies about to come. Moving on to the next slide. So, as I told you before, the NIA is not an on-field security force or an operational unit to combat terrorism per se. So, what else do we have to combat terrorism? NSG, India's elite counter-terrorism force, which is used by central government to combat all types of urban terrorist attacks. It was established after Operation Blue Star. So, NSG is an older organization than NIA itself. Moving on to it, moving to the next thing, CAPF. CAPF, as you know, has 6 different branches: CASF, ITBP, SSB, CRPF, Assam Rifles and all those. So, they in this particularly CASF and CRPF help in terrorism associated activities or protection of critical installations in India, and other 4 forces combined with defense forces to combat cross border terrorism in India. As I told you before, certain states like Mumbai have anti-terrorism squads or task forces. So, these are terrorism anti-terror squads in certain states which as first responders before before NSG or other related organizations come to meet or combat terrorism. Then we have special forces or commandos. India has certain special forces like Para SF of Army, Marcos of Navy and the Garudas of Air Force. So, these are the 3 special forces that India has. India has not still used any special force on any anti-terror activity, but they can use it for anti-hijacking operations. Moving on to it, so we have seen about the pending laws that India had, we have seen about the security forces that India governed with. Moving on to it, we need intelligence to know when and where the activity or attack might happen. So several intelligence and surveillance networks in India include Intelligence Bureau, Premier Domestic Intelligence Network that does counter surveillance, intelligence operations or data collection of about incumbent terrorist attacks. A prelims thing to be noted is it comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. Then research and analysis wing does the same activity as IB in international affairs. It stops or suspects, detects all terrorist activities who are done by non-state actors or state-sponsored terrorism, or it also tries to stop cross-border terrorism. So, one more thing that you have to know about this is, this falls under direct charge of PMO. Then comes NAT-GRID. There is a UPSC question not in CSE but in EPFO and CDS asked already about NAT-GRID. NAT-GRID is not an agency per se, it is an intelligence database I presume you might see in movies that economic agencies have their own intelligence divisions. Army has their own military intelligence divisions. So India has several intelligence divisions which need a combined database. So NATGRID is one such database where we have 21 databases of different intelligence integrated together so that it can give a proper real-time response to any data related to terror needed as soon as possible. So this is not an agency as I told you before, it's an intelligent database accumulation. Then comes cyber security division. You might have seen these questions in UPSC before. India has CRT, in this is Computer Emergency Response Team of India. So and you have I4C, that is Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center. So these two centers act against cyber crime or any form of hacking and detect suspicious terror activities beforehand. Apart from that, since we were talking about a national policy that is about to come, there is already an UN counter-terrorism strategy. There is a UN, as I told you now, there is a United Nations counter-terrorism strategy, and it urges India as a part of it. So it urges all countries to have domestic and international strategies to counter terrorism. It urges all member states to have 3 policies: not relate terrorism with any ethnicity, nationality or religion. No UN member states should financially, logistically or economically support any terrorist organization, or and they should come up with their domestic framework, which is if it already in place, it should be strengthened, or if it not in place, a new law should come into place so that terrorism can be dealt in as a national or an international matter. So these 3 points are urged by UNCT. So there is a comprehensive strategy global wise which is already in place, which India is a part of, and there is an upcoming law which is going to come, which will have a comprehensive cumulative coordination between all intelligence and anti-terrorist networks in India. So in this news we saw about an upcoming bill, and we saw about the provisions of the bill and the earlier initiatives inside it, the security agencies that India has on regarding anti-terror activities. Then we saw about intelligence networks in India, and finally we ended with an international framework that is already in place, helping terrorism across the helping anti-terrorist activities across the world. Moving on to the next news. Supreme Court accepted government's 100-meter ARAVALLI rule, but its own panel called the Centrally Empowered Committee had opposed it earlier. So we will see about the details of the news that came into play. The Supreme Court of India recently accepted a definition of ARAVALLI Hills proposed by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, that any particular hill in ARAVALLI range above 100 meters will not be classified as a part of the ARAVALLI range. So this decision was taken by central government and was unopposed by the Supreme Court, even if one of the body of the Supreme Court, central government, gave this classification of ARAVALLI Hills, that the hills, anything which constitute ARAVALLI Hills should be greater than 100 meters, and Supreme Court approved it, leaving it unopposed. But Supreme Court has a central empowered committee which looks into environmental matters pending in Supreme Court, and they have opposed this idea of classification of 100 meters. So this brings into play the role and effectiveness of CEC, and the new definition of the opposition given by CEC. So, this is a recent development on the already existing ARAVALLI news that you might have covered in the previous DNAs. So, the CEC opposed this 100-meter classification and gave 3-degree definition. What are the 3-degree definitions? First is slope criteria. Any part of undulating terrain around ARAVALLI range which has a slope of greater than 3 degree will be classified as a part of the ARAVALLI hills, because since ARAVALLI constitutes, going back to the basic geography, ARAVALLI forms a part of old relict mountains. These are one of the oldest mountains of the world and the oldest mountain in India. So, compared to young fold mountains of like Himalayas, ARAVALLIs are formed in the original so they are said to form even before the formation of they are said to form after the formation of Pangaea and Pantalsa. So, they are that old. So, this due to the continuous denudation in the mountains have become relict mountains. That means only a part of the original mountains are remaining now. So, you need stricter criteria to classify mountains such as old relict mountains such as ARAVALLI compared to young fold mountains of Himalayas. So, any area, any terrain which is greater than 3 degree slope or rise should be considered as part of ARAVALLI hills. Then elevation or counter criterion. Going back to the basics, ARAVALLI, the classification given by the Government of India is greater than 100 meters, not from the mean sea level, but from a concept called low contour, meaning it refers to the lowest point of land in the surrounding areas near ARAVALLI. So, since elevation contour is a criterion, then the lowest contour criterion selection should be very specific or determinant, so that it does not result in a miscalculation while determining the parameters. So, the lowest point determination makes the play for 100 meters. Geological continuity. Even if certain areas, like for example, there is an area which is greater than 100 meters, and there is another area which is less than 100 meters. But if these two hills have the same rock type, have the same rock age, and if they belong to the same period, then this hill can also be considered as belonging to the ARAVALLI hills. Meaning, if these two hills have the same geological continuity over time, then this should also be considered as a part of the ARAVALLI hills. So, the 3 criterions, namely 3 degree rise and the elevation or the contour determinant and the geological continuity, these 3 parameters were given by CEC to the Supreme Court for determination of what constitutes the ARAVALLI hills. But Supreme Court finally decided with only the 100-meter criterion and did not favor to these criterion. So, this was opposed by, this is the opposition that was given by CEC body. So, before going on to this issue, one more thing you should know is, this might be a direct question in prelims. Supreme Court has banned mining in all involate areas. What does involate areas mean? Ecologically sensitive areas, national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, environmentally fragile areas. So, this is a common thing that we learn from notes, but there is a exception to it. Supreme Court has banned mining in core or inviolate areas except these 3 minerals. If you find atomic minerals in these areas, then permission to mine it can be given. If critical and strategic minerals of part D is found in these areas, then permission can be given. Then certain minerals listed in 7th schedule of Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act, then these three minerals, if it's found in inviolate areas, then it can be allowed to mine. So kindly remember this exemption so that it might be asked in prelims regarding this ARAVALLI case. So moving on to the basics of this issue, what constitute ARAVALLI Hills? We already saw. Any land. What are we talking about is central government gave a definition which was accepted by Supreme Court. So what was accepted by Supreme Court is what we are seeing now. So what constitute ARAVALLI Hills? Any undulating terrain rising more than an elevation of 100 meters from the low contour level. That is what constitutes the ARAVALLI Hill. Then what constitutes the ARAVALLI range is any qualified hill not farther than 500 meters apart will be called as ARAVALLI range. So this both of these parameters put together is said to have excluded 90% of what was previously erstwhile ARAVALLI Hills. And one more ruling given by court in this judgment is that court says that blanket ban of mining in any particular area might increase illegal mining in the area. So regarding this, they have put that they have said into three classification. Mining already existing in ARAVALLI will be put under strict regulation, and there will be a pause for any new mining coming into play. Then there will be a permanent protection for the remaining ecological sensitive areas. So environmental critics and people opposing this scheme are coming out with the front that this whole of this judgment is not to restrict mining in that area, but only to limit mining, both wood and mineral mining. So the aim of this judgment and central government's approach is to limit the mining in the area and not to completely restrict it, which is the problem or the issue put forth by the environmental critics and public as such. So what are the major criticisms on this judgment or allowing of mining in this area is exclusion of majority of landscape. As we saw, this new criteria eliminates 90% of the original or erstwhile ARAVALLI range. Moving on to it, it will become a great impact for Delhi. ARAVALLIs act as heat wave barriers, western disturbance barriers, and prevent dust storms from Thar desert, and also stops pollution accumulation or black carbon shift from western part of the subcontinent into Delhi. So because of this, degradation of ARAVALLI will increase temperature, pollution, and health diseases, health issues in Delhi. Ignoring ecological continuity. For example, if there is a valley, then there is a ARAVALLI hill, nearby valley, then a ridge per se. If ecological continuity of this alone is preserved and the nearby areas are not preserved because they fall under the height of less than 100 meters, then ecological continuity between A, B and C will vary over time due to lack of preservation. So this will cause an ecological disbalance along the western states of India. Risk to groundwater recharge. Since ARAVALLI, left side of ARAVALLI constitutes Thar desert and the right side of ARAVALLI constitutes flowing of certain rivers, the expansion of the desert will cause imbalances in groundwater recharge in states like Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, because the already Delhi is suffering with drought and other things in summer predominantly, and removal of ARAVALLI in the range will completely increase groundwater depletion in the four surrounding states around ARAVALLIs. Accelerated desertification. desertification will proceed eastwards towards Delhi, and Thar desert area will phenomenally increase due to removal of an predominant mountain. There is no possibility of creating a mountain range again, because it takes years of geological formation, and even any government intervention or any public private intervention cannot create a mountain, because geography or mother nature cannot be played with. Also see Aravalli Green Wall Initiative. This might be a possible question that UPSC might ask. Aravalli Green Wall Initiative is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is planning to build a green belt of 1400 kilometers length and 5 kilometers width across the range of Aravalli, so that desertification is stopped and we might reach our UNCCD target soon. Moving on to the next slide. Maternal mortality dropped as institutional deliveries rose to 89%, as said by Union Health Minister. So he attributes this development to expanded public health infrastructure by the governments, introduction of Ayushman Arogya Mandir, immunization coverage, that is UIP, and medical education expansion, including new medical colleges under the PPP model. So we will see about all these attributes in detail. So moving on to the next slide. So some of the key concepts that might be talked about in this slide is, we will talk about MMR. MMR is the number of maternal deaths per maternal deaths per 1 lakh live births. So this is a phenomenal, if you have seen in HDI, if you have seen in multiple national and international social indicators, MMR becomes a primary aspect, because compared to other aspects which deal about the infrastructure provided by government related to delivery and other things, only MMR deals about the health and educational awareness, medical awareness of the mother. So nutrition of the woman and medical awareness of woman as a society can be easily depicted through the count of MMR. Institutional delivery is both private and public, where government promotes pregnant women to come and have deliveries at institutional setup through the efforts of ASHA workers. Go read about the impact of ASHA workers in institutional delivery. Moving on to it, NMR is the number of deaths of newly born ranging from 0 to 28 days, not more than that, per 1000 live births. U5MR is number of infants or children who are under the age of 5 who die per 1000 live births. And stillbirth rate is number of babies who are born still after they were functional inside the womb, but when they came out as deliveries, they could not be, they were not alive due to multiple factors. This is also per 1000 births. So these are the data we might have to remember. UPSC might ask numbers sometimes. So also there is infant mortality rate, which is before 1 year of attainment of the baby. If the baby dies, number of deaths that way per 1000 live births. Moving on to, we talked about the key concepts involved in this news: IMR, NMR, MMR, U5MR, stillbirth rate, and what constitutes an institutional delivery. Moving on to the next thing, we have to know certain government institution behind the decline of an MMR. So Janani Suraksha Yojana aims to provide incentive to increase nutritional, or we can put it in a simple term, instead of calling it nutrition of the woman, we can call it as a overall The aim is to increase maternal health care by providing institutional checkups, providing cash incentives to come to increase the nutritional ability of the woman, or to provide cash incentives to come to the public hospitals to take their checkup or take their delivery, is Janani Suraksha Yojana. This is already an UPSC PYQ. Moving on to the Ayushman Arogya Bharat. What is Ayushman Arogya Bharat? Nothing but primary health center. So these are the nearest health centers of government setup available to pregnant women, so that either if you are a lactating woman or a pregnant woman, you can take continuous checkups. Moving on to PMJAY, secondary or tertiary health care. How does it differ? If you have a normal delivery without any complication, then you can get yourself cured in PM Arogya Mandir, that is Ayushman Arogya Mandir, that is primary health center. While if you have any complication, then you will be under trauma care or gynecologist care. Then you might need to visit, you might need to need Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana or Ayushman Bharat to be treated under secondary and tertiary care. Then comes universal immunization program. This program has 12 important vaccines to be given at free of cost to several to children at several ages, and this government of India does at its own cost, so that NMR, IMR and MMR does not increase, along with U5MR does not increase phenomenally. Moving on to what the news talks about. So this reduction in MMR is also attributed to several medical infrastructure features, such as rapid increase in medical colleges and MBBS and PG seats with NEET coming into play. This can be contributed, as we keep on seeing negatives of NEET. This is one of the positive of NEET that you can remember. Moving on to it, long back in 2000s, there was only very few aims, nearly only one aims in Delhi. Now there are more than 23 to 25 aims across the country. So this is also a rapid increase in medical college and MBBS PG seats, and the minister attributes it to PPP model, because establishment of many government infrastructure and government colleges required private partnership into play due to lack of funds or diversion of funds. So this PPP model is helping the medical infrastructure to go at a greater pace. So with more hospitals into play and with more doctors into play, what are the benefits? There are two benefits in it. One is doctor population ratio, and another is the accessibility of these doctors into tribal and rural areas. WHO prescribes there should be one doctor per 1,000 people. India has a better rate compared to the world average, where we have one doctor per 811 people, and there are very strong medically invested states like Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Maharashtra, where the average is nearly one doctor per 425 people. So India has a proper medical infrastructure with medical efficiency, that is the doctors, and this doctor population ratio will have higher affordability and accessibility as the possible consequences. So what is the objective of reducing MMR for the state? The reduction of MMR for the state attributes to completion of SDG. So the social development as a goal is directly related to MMR, as it is related to the maternal health care and the medical awareness of the woman. So in this way, SDG 3, just a revision for prelims if you might need, SDG 3 focuses on healthy lives, wherein SDG 3.1 focuses particularly on global MMR. It wants the MMR in any state to be less than 70 per 1 lakh live births, and SDG 3.8 focuses on universal health care. So remember, SDG 3, 3.1 and 3.8 focuses upon health developments. So let's solve a previous question in this regard. So I'll give you 10 seconds so that you can read the question. Consider the following statements in relation to the scheme we already saw before, Janani Suraksha Yojana. It is a safe motherhood intervention of the state health departments. Objective is to reduce maternal and neonatal mortality among the poor pregnant women. It aims to promote institutional delivery among the poor pregnant women. Its objective includes providing public health facility to sick infants up to 1 year of age. How many of the above given statements are correct? Only 1, only 2, only 3, all 4. So let me crack this question in my own logic. If you have read that year's current affairs, you will know Janani Suraksha Yojana is a 100% centrally sponsored scheme by Government of India. So it's a safe motherhood intervention of state health department is wrong, because state health departments are help in the implementation of the scheme, but they are not directly responsible for the scheme. It is a scheme of Government of India. Moving on, so this statement is wrong. Its objective is to reduce maternal and neonatal mortality among poor pregnant women. Yes, it aims to reduce MMR and NMR. That is the objective. So this statement is right. Third one, it aims to promote institutional delivery among the poor pregnant women. Stock statement should be right at all costs. So this is also right. Its objective includes providing public health facilities to sick infants to 1 year of age. That is, they are talking about IMR. I have already told you Janani Suraksha Yojana, and there is another scheme called Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. So this aims to tackle mothers. Well, this aims to tackle infants, that is less than 1 year of age. So here we are talking about infants, but the question asks this, the scheme for mother. So fourth is wrong. So since 1 and 4 are wrong, the answer goes with B. So the decoding of the question has direct relation to what we saw today as one of the news articles. So it may seem like a comment of a minister about some increment that the government has done and declines in certain bad indicator of the society, but analyzing P by Qs will help you in choosing the perfect articles from the paper. On the first look of it, this article might look like unnecessary or not needed, but with thorough understanding of PMQs, you will know this question is directly linked to what was asked before. Moving on to the next question, next article. NTA likely to introduce facial recognition in entrance exam. Since the deep technology involved in this particular facial recognition is not detailedly discussed, in the upcoming DNAs we will see about what facial recognition is used after the government has declared regarding it. But in this article we will see about how the process of facial recognition involved will be and what is the functions and role of NTA as such. So the news says NTA wants to implement facial recognition based identity verification and live photo capture for major national entrance exams like JEE, NEET, UG starting from the next year. So this is to be done in collaboration with UID. You know who it is. And the aim is to strengthen security and curb impersonation and other malpractices in high stake, very important exams. So what do they intend to use? They will compare your biometric identification like iris, like fingerprint with UID database. So the real-time identification and tracking of data will happen. So this requires NDA to access UIDA database based on your Aadhaar verification. And as we told before, we saw before, the aim to strengthen security and curb impersonation and other malpractices in high stake examination was the objective of Radhakrishnan Committee. So this facial recognition, he said the facial recognition will solve practices such as impersonation, malpractices, spoofing of data, spoofing of credentials given while applying the exam. All these problems will be solved if implementation of facial recognitions come into play in Indian exam. So this was the implementation of facial recognition is a primary recommendation of Radhakrishnan in Radhakrishnan Committee. So we have seen these two. Moving on to the next, what constitutes, or we will see about some details regarding National Testing Agency. So National Testing Agency is established as a society under Registration Act. So it is not a profit organization or such. It is a society registered under the Societies Registration Act. It falls under Ministry of Education or the erstwhile Ministry of Human Resource Development. But one thing you have to know is it is autonomous in its functioning and it is a self-sustained testing organization, meaning it does not rely heavily on the funding from the ministry. It is a testing organization which aims to sustain itself from the fees collected through conducting these exams. So, this is one thing you have to remember. Very few government organizations in India are self-sustaining, and since it is under the Ministry of Education, the chairperson and other members will be appointed by Ministry of Human Resource Development, or it is presently named as Ministry of Education. So, the functions, what are the functions? As we know, before it conducts entrance examination, it is said to have conducted the examination for NEET UG, CUET UG, JEE Mains, entrance examination of NIFT, then you have GPAT, which is a pharmacy entrance examination, and so on. So, these are the predominant examinations conducted by CLAT also, law entrance examination. So, these are the predominant examinations conducted by NTA. Then they are creating a question bank to be given to the students before commencement of examination, which is a very good. Also, I forgot UGC NET conducted by NTA. Moving on to second point, sorry for the interruption. Moving on to second point, the NTA also promotes creation of question bank for every exam conducted, so that it will be helpful for first timers or for the students to face an examination. So, this is a very novel approach by NTA. Then they are involved in research and development of question banks and other things. They collaborate with international organizations, similar testing organizations. For example, there is an exam testing standards. So, they will collaborate with them so that their testing standards will be equal to the global standards, and they are obliged to take examinations if requested by any central government agency or any state government agency. So, this also you have to remember. One more thing you have to remember is the exams conducted by them. Moving on to the next thing, ISRO'S heaviest ever launch today is test of capability and cost. So, ISRO successfully launched the LVM3, which is the GSLV, also called as LVM3 rocket. Using this, they launched the payload or a satellite called Bluebird Block 2 mission, carrying 6,100 kg satellite, the heaviest payload ever placed into low Earth orbit by an Indian launch vehicle. So, this mission is a part of a commercial agreement with a US company and represents key milestone for India's space launch capability. So, what do we infer from this? This shows the prowess of LVM3 in India. This shows how our space diplomacy and space commercialization is increasing phenomenally decade by decade. So, since this is predominantly a mains topic, we will see about LVM3, what are the different types of orbits, what are the different type of engines based on fuels, and all the other prelims related things in the upcoming slide. So, some facts about LVM3 are, it is India's heaviest operational rocket. It is a 3-stage medium to heavy lift launch vehicle, and it contains the India's high thrust cryogenic engine. So, these are the facts regarding LVM3. Now, we will discuss about different types of orbit. So, we have 3 orbits: high Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit constitutes somewhere from 200 kilometers to generally used for Earth observation satellites, and even the International Space Station is located in low Earth orbit. These are generally basics that you need to know when you see some launch vehicle being progressed in the news, or some if you see some defense related article, go and read about all the Indira Gandhi missile development program 5 components and the recent developments regarding it. But if you see a satellite related thing, then go back, any launch vehicle or any satellite related achievement or any engine development, then go back and read all the types of orbit, types of engines, so that it will be a revision for the upcoming prelims. So moving on back to do what we were showing. So low Earth orbit is 200 kilometers to 1000 kilometers, and it has Earth observation satellite, and so generally Earth observation satellite, weather forecasting or other Earth observation satellites along with International Space Station is located in this orbit. Medium Earth orbit constitutes from 36,000 kilometers. Actually, it is 357,768, but 36,000 to be easy. So medium Earth orbit has all intelligence and surveillance reconnaissance satellites, so that it can track data of you, and high Earth orbit constitutes anything around 36,000 kilometers, where predominantly TV, satellite phone and all other communication related things are placed. So this is the different types of orbit. Moving on to it, we will see about what constitutes geosynchronous, geostationary and sun synchronous orbits. So these two are similar in concept, so it will be easy to explain. Geosynchronous or geostationary orbits are similar in the way that the movement of the Earth and the movement of the satellite are very relative, so that if you see from outside, it will look like satellite is at the same place with respect to movement of. So when the Earth moves, the satellite also moves in the same point, so that when you see from a particular point on the Earth, you will see that the satellite is always present at the same point. So in this, both these have a common anomaly, that is relativity of satellite is relative to the position of the Earth. But what is the difference is geostationary orbiters. So the satellite is relative to the Earth, a position of the Earth near the equator also. So it does not incline away from the equator. Well, geosynchronous orbit, it can move in a H shape around the Earth with relative to the same position, so that it can take data and have a complete coverage of the Earth. So the commonality between geosynchronous and geostationary is their position with relative to Earth is continuously at the same place, while the difference between the both is one is inclined near the equator, while other can move away from the equator, creating an H shape. So this is predominantly found in GPS and other navigation systems, because they might need to cover all the parts of the world, while this is predominantly found in Earth observation satellite. For example, India's resources need to be analyzed, so it has to focus India throughout the journey of the Earth in 24 hours. So this is predominantly found in Earth observation satellites. What is sun synchronous orbiters? What is sun synchronous orbiters? The position of the satellite is relative to the position of the sun. For example, but the Earth will keep moving. So when the Earth moves from here to here, you will see the same satellite tomorrow at the same time. For example, you saw a satellite from take from example Paris at 4 p.m. you will see the satellite at the same time tomorrow, because it is relative to the position of the sun and not with the position of the earth. So this is used generally for weathering satellites. So this is the difference between geosynchronous, geostationary and sun synchronous orbits. Moving on to the next type, we are classifying engines based on fuel. So cryogenic and semi-cryogenic engines. Generally you should know that, we all know that in rockets, fuel along with oxidizer constitutes the thrust system of the rocket. So why do we need oxidizer? Because in space you don't have a combustion element, so you need oxidizer to provide O2 or oxygen so that fuel can burn on its own material. So in cryogenic, it is liquid hydrogen plus liquid oxygen. This is the oxidizer. Liquid hydrogen, what does cryogenic mean? Cryogenic means freezing temperatures or sub-zero temperatures at the rate of, so maintaining fuel at this temperature means cryogenic as such, and maintaining liquid hydrogen at 273 degrees Celsius fueled by LOX constitute cryogenic engine, cryogenic fuel. So this is a classification based on fuel. So what constitutes semi-cryogenic fuel is, we used in semi-cryogenic fuel. So instead of LH2 we use kerosene here. What is the difference is, cryogenic, why do we need cryogenic fuel is, since it is heavy, less in weight and more efficient. For example, Vickers engine using a liquid fuel requires, I read a data, I want to share it with you, requires 3 kg per the thrust required, while cryogenic fuel 3.6 kg per thrust required, while the cryogenic fuel requires 2.6 kg per se. So this 1 kg decrease can help in, either help in more distance to be covered because of more fuel accumulated, or can help in increased payload efficiency. But what is the use of semi-cryogenic? Say if the launch vehicle or if the space trip is of economic purpose, then you can use, since liquid hydrogen is comparatively costly when compared to kerosene. So semi-cryogenic engines are used for economic shuttles. Moving on to the type of launch vehicle. So PSLV is, starting with PSLV, PSLV is called the workhorse of ISRO. After SLV and ASLV, we move to Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. This was used for most of the missions in India, and that is why it's known as workhorse of ISRO. So it's a 4-stage vehicle. First vehicle to use liquid stage as one of the components. It can lift 1.75 tons to, that is 1750 tons to lower Earth orbit. Moving on to GSLV Mark III. Mark II. So Mark II is a 3-stage vehicle with solid and liquid, 4-stage vehicle with solid and liquid blend blend. It can lift up to 2.425 tons to LEO and 6 tons to, 2.25 tons to HEO and 6 tons to lower Earth orbit. Well, we were talking about LMV3 and we constituted this as the heaviest payload lifter in India. So, it is a 3-stage, also called as 4-stage. I will tell you why. Because the first stage consists of boosters which are solid. I think you might have known boosters. Considering this as rockers, you would have seen 2 additional patchments. So, those are called thrust boosters. So, the thrust booster will have a solid stage, while the second stage will have a liquid stage, followed by upper stage giving cryogenic stage. So, there is a solid booster, then there is a liquid solid stage, liquid stage and a cryogenic stage in the upper stage. So, that is why the cryogenic stage at the upper stage provides higher lifting ability to it. How much can it lift? LVM3 can lift 8 tons to LU. That is why in the recent news it has lifted 6.1 tons to LU. So, kindly go and revise the multiple concepts of launch vehicles, engines based on fuels, multiple type of orbits that we have described here. Moving on to the PYQ regarding it. With reference to India's satellite launch vehicle, consider the following statements. We have seen all about it, so we should be able to solve this question. Reading statement by statement. PSLV launch satellites are useful for Earth resource monitoring, whereas GSLVs are designed mainly to launch communication satellites. As we saw before, Earth resource monitoring satellites are placed in LEO, whereas communication satellite is placed in HEO. So, going by the logic of it, PSLV is capable to deliver in a nearby area, where GSLV is able to deliver in a farther area. So, this statement should be true. Moving on to the second statement. Satellites launched by PSLV appear to remain permanently fixed in the same position in sky as viewed from a particular location on Earth. The question is incomplete. Can be true. Moving on to a second, this can be true. We will keep it on hold and coming to the third statement. GSLV Mark III is a 4-stage launch vehicle with the first and third stage using solid rocket motors and the second and the fourth stage using liquid rocket engines. So, as I told you, the third stage cannot be solid, eliminated through it. Now, I told you it is a 3-stage vehicle. So, 4-stage can be considered, but the thruster cannot be considered as a stage. So, both the ways this is wrong. Third stage being solid is wrong. So, this statement is wrong. Eliminating 3, answer is 1. So, we have discussed about certain basics in science and tech regarding satellites, and the current affairs regarding the development of what constitutes ARAVALLI Hills, the upcoming anti-terror bill, and the role, composition and the function of NTA. So, kindly go and revise these details, and wish you best of luck for starting the upcoming prelims preparation from the month of January and February. Thank you.